the home of inspiration every day.
Most people give up on themselves easily. You know the human spirit is powerful.
From news,
countries across the globe have been hit by the COVID-19 virus.
Views,
there's a global trend to see an increase in GBV incidences, specifically domestic violence.
Sports,
What's he say? It's a really good ball. It's Shabalala.
and music to inspire you every day. This is Vuka Online, your inspiration radio station.
Welcome, Sanele. Today, I am just so happy to bring into the Lipstick Chronicles Season 3 a very, very exciting guest. And her name is Sanele. And as we do on this episode, we don't introduce guests. Guests introduce themselves the way they want to. We also don't prep them because we really want the organic person to come out and people to really just say their mind out. But welcome to this episode. Again, we had, as listeners, you will know, we had season 1 and season 2, and now we have season 3 this year. And season 3 this year is looking at the vibrancy of young women. And as I call it, this is an intergenerational discussion that you have, because you have me as a host who is 59 years old, and I have my guests that are like a decade or two younger than me, just to really talk about ourselves as women, how the younger generation see the role of women in society. What is it that they are seeing in the world right now? And this episode was influenced by the previous episodes where we had even people from rural upbringing who are making an impact. And now we're focusing on youth because there was an outcry even in those discussions where the older generation was talking about the youth and the perceptions of the youth. So we want, to hear from you. And with that, Sanele, thank you very much for agreeing to be part of this engagement, this conversation. We are really looking forward to your insights. And just feel free, here we want to talk your own truth, how you see the world. There's no right or wrong. And we're really excited to have you. Without further ado, my name is Nomvusele Losongelo. As I have mentioned, a lot of other people call me Mvusi. And who is Sanele?
Hello everyone. Hi, Dr. Mvusi. Thank you so much for having me and to inviting me to your podcast. I wanted to, I'm thinking to myself that where should I start? Obviously, it's good to introduce myself, but I'm also just wow and amazed that this work that you're doing. I just want to recommend you because I really feel that, in the society that we live in now, there's less role models as when we were growing up. So, the woman that inspired me when I was growing up, in terms of we were looking at it as celebrities. So it would be people that we seeing on TV, maybe read about in the magazines. And as you grow older, the people that start making an impact into your life are your, your mentors, people around you that you actually do know, that you can have a conversation with. So sometimes, life changes, but I think it's very important because I really think that it's important for young people or even ourselves as older women to have mentors in our lives. So my name is Sanele Simmons, and Sanele Simmons the second, actually. So I've got a bit of a joke in terms of the second, how it came about. So my husband is originally from the United States of America. And he is, they like to do international, generation in terms of, like the Jake, the fourth, the fifth, the sixth.
Yes.
So my husband is Ken Simmons the second, named obviously after his father. And one of our sons is also called Kenneth Simmons the third. So when we got married at Home Affairs, they put Sanele Simmons the second. So I was like, no, they made a mistake, So I go back to them and I'm like, you made a mistake. The second is a suffix, it's like junior or like senior. And so making it second is not incorrect. It's Sanele Simmons. And they insist and say that that's how the South African government does it. And unfortunately, there's nothing they can do about it. So, a few years, I'm upset about it and thinking, oh, can you believe it? Even our daughter is Jade Simmons the second. So, but then later on, I think around about Queen Elizabeth's passing, and it was Queen Elizabeth II, Queen Elizabeth II. I was like, you see, God, when your royalty comes to you and you're busy fighting it. I'm busy fighting royalty here. I'm the first and the second. How about that? So, but normally I go by Sanele Simmons. And then obviously if I do have to fill in like, as how it is on my ID, I put Sanele Simmons the second. Maybe I think on my LinkedIn, it's at Simmons the second. But on YouTube, or when I introduce myself, I say Sanele Simmons. And also in my Mrs. South Africa journey, which I'm going to talk about later. Also, if you want to vote for me, it's Sanele Simmons. There's no second, it's just Sanele Simmons. Yes. So I'm originally, sorry, you can continue.
No, I was just going to say, what a beautiful introduction. Just the name, the second. I was just excited about that. Continue.
Okay, thank you. So I'm originally from KwaZulu-Natal, and I was born in a small town called Eshowe. And my mom is originally from there, but she was a person, a mover and a shaker. Most of our family were teachers, and she decided to go on a different path, which is administration. So she worked for a clinic. She also went for the government. And so when she had me in KwaZulu-Natal in Eshowe, we moved to Port Shepstone, where she had a job as a nurse administrator in a clinic. That's where I entered my first pageant. I was 3 years old, and I won. They said it was because of my beautiful smile. And so I got into that thing because I didn't obviously know, even when I went on stage doing the modeling, but I didn't understand what it was. But it definitely put an impact into my life that, you know what, I like this thing, being on stage, And so I grew up into pageantry, and, I enjoyed it. And later on, my mom got married to Duduzi Ntshangase, who is my stepfather. And I had a very nice upbringing. My parents were Christian, so I grew up in a Christian family. I didn't even know that my stepfather wasn't my biological father, until our neighbors, neighbors told me. But it was a very good experience. And I remember in 1994, with the new elections, my parents were working for the government, as I've mentioned. So they moved to Cape Town. And, so just growing up in that Cape Town environment from Eshowe, a small village in KwaZulu-Natal. Yes. Now we live in Cape Town. And, now there's no more segregation. So white, black, we can go to the same school. And so I was loving, my life. And, as you know, when you're working for government, the seats in parliament, it's not forever, when the party and the new party comes. So we had to relocate back to KZN. And that was a very hectic moment in my life. It was very stressful because I was a teenager now and I'm an adolescent. And I'm used to, Cape Town, upmarket living, going to the mall with my friends, ordering pizza, all these things that youth like. And I'm back in KZN, and this experiment and that is changed. It was a very sad time in my life. I was very suicidal. I tried to kill myself. And so this now also comes into the first influential person in my life, obviously other than my mom, which I'll talk about it later. But when I was watching the Oprah show, and I saw people that had actually committed suicide and didn't die, but were there, one of them was actually from the torso down. They actually tried to kill themselves on a train track, and they didn't die. And so half of their part is gone. Somebody tried to shoot themselves, and half of their face is gone. I'm watching this as a teenager. I promise you, it was like God was ministering to me, because I was like, what? I would never try to do this thing myself, ever again. I promise I would never
Yes.
be suicidal. I would never. So, the thing is with suicide, it's a mental illness, right? So it doesn't mean that even though maybe I made the commitment to myself that I would never kill myself again, that those thoughts still don't come. They come now, even as I'm a grown person, because it's a mental illness. So it's not like I can switch
Yes.
it off and switch it on. So, but
So,
I
Sanele,
mean,
hold it there. What I want to do is just to go for a little break. It's really
mhm.
very exciting. Um, there is it, folks. You have a cattle header speaking to a queen. Today is actually very already this introduction is bringing up a lot of other things that are coming out. We hear the role model of a mother who is no more, and that we do not have role models. And we want to hear more about that, because that's exactly what we really want to talk to about these issues of the role of women in society. We're gonna go for a break, and then please, you have to continue to talk about your career.
How do you know the life of personal coach you're about to work with is who they say they are? How do you know if they can do the job? At the Africa Board for Coaching, Consulting and Coaching Psychology, we can tell you. So, before you share your secrets and spend your money, check with us first. Visit www.abccccp.com or call us on 012-751-7608. The ABCCP, the professional body for coaches.
Welcome back, Sanele. Yes.
Thank you. I'm enjoying our conversation.
Yes, 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 yes. This is the time we celebrate you. You celebrate your life. You celebrate the women that are around you. So this is your space. Go ahead.
Yeah,
Thank you very much
thank you.
for
Thank
opening
you.
up to us. Mhm.
Thank you. So I'll pick it up obviously from the suicidal. So then I made a commitment that I'll never do it again. And God was faithful, because after that, there were some times that this something would be so nice. And I'd be like, oh my God, imagine if I'd killed myself again, like, oh God, like never, don't ever go there. And so that's so I said that I would say Oprah was very influential at that time in my life, because I used to watch the
Yes.
show and then I learned a few things. Another person who's been influential is my mother. Like yes, she's late now. She passed away in 2008, but she was like a superhero. She was like stylish. She was absolutely amazing. Everybody loved her. All my friends wished that she was actually their mother. So
Yes.
it was a very good relationship that we had. She always asked me and open in terms of like, let's have conversations. And sometimes I'd be, ashamed of coming to her to talk to her, because she's my mom. So
Mm-hmm,
yes, maybe
mm-hmm,
sometimes you can have our mothers that are playing as significant role models, but if it's also somebody who's on the side, it does help, because
mm-hmm.
then you can't really be honest and be vulnerable, because when it's your mom, sometimes you get scared to be really honest, because you are scared that you're going to disappoint her, or maybe she's going to judge you, or so she was really an inspiration, a godly woman. She is the person also who taught me the ways of Christ. And she got saved, yeah, when I was young, and she joined the choir. So I'll go and listen to her when she's doing choir practice, and I'll be sitting there, and the Holy Spirit will be ministering to me as I'm listening to them, and I thought I fell in love with God, and that was before she got married. And then, obviously, she also married somebody who's also religious. My father is a preacher in church, so I grew up, in a I would
Yes.
say holy environment.
Yes.
And life happens, right? Even though you're growing up in a holy environment doesn't mean that you're not going to go through challenges. And
Mm.
so mixed up with bad friends. And but I would say that my relationship with friends started actually when I was young, because I remember one time we actually went to Robben Island on a school trip. So one of my friends, who was my neighbor, had a spoon that they actually, was like decorated in a house in a light teaspoon. I'm like, like, why would they be decorating a teaspoon and make it, it's like, no, I got it from Robben Island. I was like, okay. So I think for me at that time, I should have noticed that there's something special about this Robben Island, because why would somebody go there and get a teaspoon and frame it and they put it into, in their
Yeah.
house? And so I went to going on a school run, and so I had my friends with me, and and I didn't take it seriously because I thought like, okay, it's something fun. And as we are running, I got left behind because I was busy with my friends. And when we were time to come now to the finishing line, I promise you that my friends ran and I lost and they won. And I was like thinking to myself, like, why? Because I stood behind to help them, walk slowly with them. I should have been running.
Yes.
So also
Yes.
that played a significant role in my life, because we all are in individual's journey. Don't be look at somebody else like, what are they doing? And then now you forgot about your journey, waiting for them, because when the finish line comes, they will sprint and leave you behind.
It's a
So
good nugget right there.
thank you. So those are the kind of things that shape me. And so she would be very, judgmental, especially obviously after I told her about what happened. So she'd be like, don't have friends, don't have friends. But as you're growing up, you do want to have friends.
Yes, yes.
And sometimes also friends, they come in with different upbringing, different aspiration. You just have to make sure that obviously the right friends that you have, you choose the right ones, that both of you, or in the group, you have the same vision, you have the same will, you have the same drive. I believe that it's also fundamental. So later
Sanele,
on,
Sanele, just before you continue, I want to actually zone into what is for me interesting right now is that you grew up suicidal in a Christian environment.
mhm,
How did that work for you? How I don't know, how did you navigate that space
navigate,
where you
mhm,
knew that there was God? Obviously, you were faithful and you knew that he was there and you would pray and probably, and then
mhm.
this,
This
you were
past,
able,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. And
Mhm,
then you had this and these friends and all that.
mhm,
How did you experience this kind of, how do I call it? Duality,
mhm.
extremes.
Yes, it is extremes, right? Because as a Christian, you are taught that, whatever challenges that you are facing, give it all to God, right?
Yes.
Whereas mental health is an illness in the brain that tells you, give up, that tells you that you will never achieve your dreams, that tells you that you are not worthy, that tells you that this is it, tomorrow doesn't exist. So it is really like a bit of a living a double life,
Yes.
because in my mind, in my spirit, as a child of God, I do know that God has great plans for me. But
Yes.
because of my mental health, it makes me want to be
Yes.
a quitter. It makes me not want to remember the goodness and the promises of God. So it was very
Yes.
challenging, like I said, that as a child, because I think at one time I actually went into a coma for a couple of days, and it's not like I did it once. It became a lifestyle. I think maybe the people that cut themselves is something similar, just that obviously I never really cut myself, but it would come very often. And so right now, as I'm older, I call it demonic,
Yes.
because it's the fact that it triggers, it's one thing that ends up triggering another thing and ends up triggering another thing. And then you would be, no matter how beautiful your life is, but at that moment it comes to you and it says, do it now. Just do it now, and it really just come like as a possession. And so I think maybe with that encounter of having to watch other people that have gone through this but didn't die, and they were actually grateful. They were not crying. You see, they were so grateful that God didn't take me. I'm so happy to be alive. And I'm looking at them, and the person doesn't have a face, the person doesn't have legs, and they're so grateful to life. I think it also gave me a bit of a revelation that my life is not in my hands. It's actually in God's hands, because they wanted to take themselves out, but God kept them. So I was
Yeah.
thinking to myself, I don't want to be now trying to kill myself and still be alive, but now I don't have legs because I did that to
Yes.
myself. So
Yes.
it gave me a bit
So
of
yeah, so Sanele, because we do not have a lot of time, I want us to move to, your great work that we have done. But I think before we do that, what we want to just emphasize, which is exactly the reason why this platform is here, is to have these untold stories of women that sometimes we see ourselves glamorized, we put on makeup and whatever, or driving nice cars, but we never kind of like think that um, people are going through a lot, in particular women. And I think you will have to give us a message to the youth about the mental illness, which is really something that I'm very grateful you actually opened up. When we see the you now as you are, we would, I'm passing by the street, I would never thought that. But these are really, really deep seated issues we need to actually be vulnerable about, because the younger generation would actually learn from that. But having said that, I want us now to jump into the Sanele now.
Yes, I love it. I love it.
Sanele now.
Thank you. So this year I've entered Mrs. South Africa. It's not the first time I entered. I entered in 2017. So when I entered in 2017, my background now is in the beauty industry. I love making women look and feel beautiful. And I believe that also it's part of my calling. And so when I entered Miss South Africa, everything was going well. I got a car sponsor, a clothing sponsor. I'm like, I am winning this thing. And then when they were calling the finalist, my name wasn't mentioned. So I was like, oh my God, my name didn't get called. And everybody's like, no, you must enter again. You must, and wanted to bring in a different side of me, So now I had to use what I've learned, looked around at the women that have moved on, like what are they doing differently? Who are they? And I realized that, oh, okay, some of them are entrepreneurs and some of them are doing real impact in communities. I'm doing impact in my small cubicle in my room, right?
Yes.
And as a therapist, changing
Yes.
women one at a time, but they're doing
Yes.
real impacts, doing events and, so Beauty with Intention was launched, which now we've registered as a nonprofit company. And we hosted events, live events, and we will talk about now the issues, right? My issues, everybody's issues that have to deal with women. And then during that time, we will also do a makeover, because I want all women to look fabulous and look beautiful. And it went on for a few years and very exciting, partnered with the Johannesburg Chamber of Commerce and Industry, and then COVID happened. So now I'm back
Yeah.
to square one. Like, oh goodness, okay. I've tried to do this, I've tried to do that. Now everything shut down. And not obviously, it wasn't like I was blaming myself, but I was just thinking like,
Yes.
how can I pivot? How can I,
Yes.
in this new world now, how can I pivot? And luckily, through the Johannesburg Chamber of Commerce and Industry, I went to an e-commerce training, and More for Women was launched. So More for Women is a dream of mine when I was a teenager, at that time when I was trying to kill myself. And now it's like I've come full circle, because from the pain that I was feeling and created this shopping mall during a school project because I was missing the shopping mall. And then now, 20 years, 25 years later, More for Women is launched. So I've come full circle. That's how I believe. And with the Mrs. South Africa platform, I believe now it's given me a voice that I can be able to speak about my mental issues. I can be able to speak about things that I go through, because I am here for a purpose. Don't look at
Yes.
me, like you just said, I look beautiful. You might not think that I'm going to. No, that's a lie. We all go through something. There's
Yes.
a book that I've been reading called Secrets of Sleep. And they're actually talking about that the reason why there's so much anxiety in the world is because from when you look at it, the research shows that from electricity, from technology, because back in the days, people would go to bed early. When the sun goes down, they eat as families, they're sitting together
Mm-hmm.
and then they go to bed. Now
Mm-hmm.
the family, people are on their phones, we're sleeping late,
Mm-hmm.
so there's no rest. So if that's the cause, that means that 90% to 80% of us human beings alive right now are going through some sort of depression, some sort of
Yes.
anxiety. And
Yeah.
I'm there to say, don't quit, don't take yourself out,
Yes.
stay, and God has greater things in line for you. Thank you.
Wow. Wow. On that message, let's take another break because
Mm-hmm.
then when we come back, I really want to hear more about what you see in the world with women and what is it that we can do. Let's take a break.
Mm-hmm.
The Africa Center for Work-Based Learning is a professional development center for professionals who aim to improve their professional standing. This means that the learning programs we run are more than just academic programs. They are work-based programs that focus on leveraging your current experience as a professional to build your overall profile. A year down the line, the Africa Center for Work-Based Learning is developing into a preferred center for professional development in Pretoria, with 8 professional development faculties including accounting, teaching, entrepreneurship, as well as IT and many more. For more information, go to acwbl.org or dial +27 12 751 7608. The Africa Center for Work-Based Learning, where work is learning.
Welcome back. Welcome back. How I wish that this doesn't end. You know, it just excites me to hear all
Mm-hmm.
these good insights and the experiences of women that we wouldn't necessarily actually, talk about. And in particular, and there's a reason why we actually, we do the Vuka online is a online radio that's got a global reach and you get listened to not only the youth from South Africa, throughout the globe. And most of the
Wow.
times, what we find is that people have got some perceptions about African women.
Mm-hmm.
That
Mm-hmm.
these African women, they need to be empowered, da 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 da. But we are actually giving this voice to yourselves, so that
Mm-hmm.
people know that yes, in our little corners, whilst they might be listening to some media about some other things that are not good, but there
Mm-hmm.
is the good that we need to
Yes.
amplify coming from women. And that is what I would like you to talk about right
Mm-hmm.
now.
Thank you, thank you.
What is your
Well, right now
guts?
it's exciting time. Okay, I'm also a global entrepreneur, by the way.
Yes,
uh, so um, so the More for Women platform is a global platform, and most of our visitors come from the US. We've got from Australia, Singapore, the Middle East, and I've gone to the Middle East, to the UAE to speak a few times in Dubai. So I am working also partnered with a company that is based in Dubai to take some women entrepreneurs to go and exhibit and open up the markets there. So I do that twice
yes,
or 3 times a year. And but I think the perception is a perception that the world has, also is a perception that even ourselves still struggle with or still
yes,
used to think. Because in the time when my mom was growing up, most of the professions were nurses,
yes,
police, domestic work. So from the time that now with the new South Africa, and now we are finding ourselves as CEOs and, but it's still like one lifetime. So there is still that perception when somebody might look at a Black woman and be thinking that maybe she's underneath them. Or, when you're looking at South Africa, you're thinking that, there's poverty in this country. I don't think so. Unfortunately, obviously, there are some things that could make, for example, the unemployment rate is very high compared to other countries, the youth unemployment rate. But in heart, I believe that we are not poor. Because, if a person is taking a bath, I promise you, even if they don't have money, when you look at them, especially if they are South African, they just glow from within. This is the blessed nation, And because there are other countries, where there's also poverty, when you see them on TV, it's like you can just see with these people, there's no hope. They're skinny and they look like they're about to die any moment. Yes, there's no unemployment in South Africa, but people are looking good still,
Yeah.
And I think that spirit of Ubuntu, because we from back in the days we used to take care of each other. So I think that spirit is still there, in terms of communities looking after each other. And I think also the people that have done well globally, look at currently the Mrs. World, who won Mrs. South Africa, and she went to compete at Mrs. World. She won Mrs. World in 40 years of the pageant
Yes.
itself. You look
Yes.
at this young lady, Tyler, she's winning awards after awards after awards. And maybe sometimes because those stories don't get shared, that's why I started with saying thank you for sharing these stories, because when we look at the news and we hear these negative things, you're thinking, it's all gloom, but it's not. We actually in a tipping bag. That's why I say it's just starting. The scale is going to go high and high and higher,
Yes.
And people also get surprised, like, what? How can you be top 10 global CEO, from South Africa? And I'm like, it's because there's not a lot. It's not like I'm
Yeah.
competing with
Yeah.
2,000.
Yeah.
I'm the one that took the courage and said, you know what, I'm going to be an entrepreneur. I'm going to start my own business. I'm going to do whatever I need to do to make it work. And maybe some people are still thinking that, oh no, I don't have what it takes. I don't have, but I do believe that the more we have this session, somebody's sitting there with the dream. Look at mine 25 years ago, so somebody's sitting there maybe with the dream of 10 years and they're not starting, and what they need to do is start.
That's there. That's there,
Mm-hmm.
Sanele. You've said something which is at the core of what we want to talk about. At least uyasizwa isiZulu masifuna ukuthi kwakhala nyonini. When you look
Mm-hmm.
around, when you look
Mm-hmm.
around and you hear amongst ourselves as women, as youth, the girl child, these negative thoughts about themselves and other people, looking at, at us
Mm-hmm.
as a community and as individuals that are not
Mm-hmm.
really taking up the bull by its horn. And I'm a cattle header, so those
Mm-hmm.
idioms, they may come like that.
Yeah.
So what are you seeing in your space, and
Mm.
what kalanyo nini, and if there is something that you think could happen to change that narrative, what should it be?
Mm-hmm. I would think that media media has definitely played a big role. And as I said, that we were just coming up, right? Because when you look at 94, it's still our lifetime, so things have changed now. But when you look at other countries, you see your Dubai, China, some countries in the same time frame have done amazingly well, And so I don't know if obviously we don't want to go to corruption, but let me stick to media, because I feel that with the media, this woke culture in terms of, first it started as positive, women empowerment, and it was in a positive kind of mindset. But now I feel that it's actually starting to go the wrong route. Or maybe it was in the wrong direction, but they made it seem cool in the beginning, where we all thought that, okay, it's smart now. And then now they're being straightforward with their agenda. And I will say this because, especially as a girl child or as women, when we grew up, we used to believe in a marriage, to be a mother, to get married, and to have your children. And right now, when you look at the culture, how it's going, now we're getting into a space where we don't feel like we need men. And I'll tell you this movie that came out now, Snow White. Everybody knows the story of Snow White. And then now Disney releases a movie where Snow White doesn't really need a man. So now the women don't need men don't need women. And what kind of society is that going to be? Because we need each other at the end of the day. You know, even when I was growing up, my parents would be like, oh, clean, because what are you going to do in your hustle when you get married? You might think, oh my God, maybe I don't ever want to get married, but it's part of life. It's nature, you know, that's where we're going. We're getting groomed. So now, even when you see the people on Instagram, you know, posing and showing off their bums, like, you have to think about your future. And I'm sorry to say if I'm still old fashioned, but obviously I'm
Yeah.
Mrs. South Africa contestant that shows that I am for marriage. I believe that we need to go back to that, to those initial. Maybe, yes, it doesn't mean that I'm a wife, now I'm a slave. No, we are both helpers. How about that? We both respect the woman and respect the man. It doesn't have to be like we don't need men don't need women. You know, I feel that that's really going to go, you know, in the opposite direction. And as a Christian, as a believer, God doesn't also like those things. So when we try to become joining the woke culture, be free, be free, you know, people can do whatever they want. That is wrong. We don't have the commandments for no reason. Those commandments are supposed to guide our lives, you know, and we're also not living for this world only. We're living for the next life. And I'm sure everybody knows that, you know, it's at the end times. So those are the kind of conversation also that I think we need to have in terms of, that's my podcast that I'm planning to start, where we talk about the end times prophecies, because it's true, it's happening right in front of our eyes. And we're scared to talk about them because you're thinking people are going to think that you are strange. But no, we
Yeah.
have to look at ourselves.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's interesting exactly what you say, and with you as someone who is in the industry and with the media, and we know, and we're not saying that this shouldn't happen, that we write the stories that would sell, but I think as you are rightfully saying, is platform like this where we need to collaborate as women
Yes.
and talk about the good stories, because it's
Mm,
one thing to complain about this is what is happening. The question is, what is it that we are doing in our legal space, which is me
mm,
and you coming together here now to say, this is the story, there is the other side. And
mm,
the more we work together, the more we sell the good, we're going to change the narrative. That's very powerful insight that you are sharing with us. Tell us more
mm,
about what you do, your philanthropic work.
Yeah. So now, obviously, having to move to the digital space, um, I'm going to take now the beauty with intention. Although I still obviously would like it to be physical because there is that, you know, that
Yes.
hug, meeting your sister, you know,
Yeah.
that ignites something. And but you know, I'm thinking that everything is moving digitally. Trade, everything is moving online. So I am planning to host more events online because also online, you know, you don't have to think about geographic location, you know,
Yeah.
wherever because then also if I'm doing it as in person, uh, only people that are around my area is going to come. So
Yeah.
we need voices and actions from different types of people, you know, different countries. And so, for example, what we used to do previously is that we would have a panel discussion. And in the panel discussion would be somebody who's gone through the challenge, whatever the topic is in that month. So let's say for menopause, for example, breast cancer. We'll have somebody who's gone through the process and maybe recovered. Then we've got somebody who's still going on. Maybe they just found out. And then we have a doctor, maybe somebody who was
Mm,
a provider, you know, just at different angles in terms of the panel
mm,
discussion so that everybody's voice is heard and the solutions can
yes.
come together in terms of, you know, making sure that those gaps are done. So moving that into online space. And like I said, also that I wanted to also do a bit of some podcast, and that one would be hectic because we're going to do fire there. We'll be talking about fire, things that the people don't really want to talk about. But I am passionate, and even though my calling is in the woman empowerment space, but also it's not only the women, yes, because the women are the fundamentals of society, but also girl child, boy child, husbands. My husband is involved with most of my things that I do, all my businesses, even with the Mrs. SA, he's like, the campaign manager. So, there isn't every, like, let's draw a line. This is for you and this is for me, let's all come together, and there is something that
Yes.
one can go far and then two can go 10,000 miles. So
Yes.
if we do
Yes.
that, myself, you, another sister, there's more impact that we can do.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
This is very exciting. Listeners, we are speaking to Sanele, the finalist of Mrs. South
South
Africa.
Africa.
2017 and even now 2025, we really have to make it a point that we are rallying behind you with all
Thank
the
you.
work that you are doing. I love the nuggets. I also really share with you the same sentiments about the complementarity of men and women, and that I think we just distorting the who we are as a people by trying to go with the popular narrative of individualistic cultures, or
Mm-hmm.
even like the values that we are adopting from other people, and that
Mm-hmm.
makes us to forget and lose who we are. And in that way we are actually you know feeding this demon that you're talking about, this mental
Mm-hmm.
illness, because
Yes.
it actually just shows that as a result of us um staying, working and playing in exclusion, and even these conversations we kind of like have women
Mm-hmm.
and men and look at the other as the
Yeah.
other. It contributes so much on these
Mm-hmm.
social ills that we see, and I think that is what we really taking away from here as well, in terms of let's go back to basics. We
Yeah.
need to actually own our own little spaces. It doesn't
Mm-hmm.
matter if it's different from what you believe in, but you have to own your own voice. Your own voice
Mm-hmm.
it comes from the perspectives and the experience that you have. And here you are doing such a great job. And I
Thank you.
love the small for women
Mm-hmm.
concept.
Thank
It's
you.
I even imagine it physically how it would be, and how
Mm-hmm.
exciting it would be to actually have something like that. And we're looking forward to your digital space. And
Thank you.
thank you very much for
Mm-hmm.
honoring us. But before you leave, two questions I want to ask you. The first one is, if you would talk to the younger Sanele right now,
Mm-hmm.
what would you advise her?
Wow. I think definitely would be believe in your power. When I look back, I I don't know, I think maybe because I'm cancer, I always use that as an excuse to say I'm going in my shell. And you cannot do change the world being in your shell. And that's one thing for me that I feel that as I'm going to understand it and learning myself that I want to be remembered. I'm here in this world for a purpose. I know the Bible
Yep.
says you live and you die, but okay, let me at least the next 20 years or 50 years, people still remember me. I want to be spoken about, and long after I've been gone. So when I go into the shell, when I'm thinking that this is not my time, when I'm doubting myself, that's actually when I'm going against what I should be doing, because I need to
Yes.
be bold, I need to be fearless, and I need to believe in myself. There's no other me except me. There's nothing. God made me this way, even if maybe I might not like some parts of my body. So what? I've got other fabulous things. So that's one of the things that I would say, and luckily I do have a picture of myself when I was young, and I look at it and I look so innocent and I'm smiling, like I'm so joyful, like whatever happened to me, the negative thoughts, the negative beliefs that
Yes,
I've let
yes.
come into me. And, no, if I could go back, I'd be like, yeah, you got it. Just keep on the smile, keep shining. One day you're going to change the world.
Believe in your power. And if I
Yes,
may add, your power is within. You're not going to get it anywhere
yes,
else. It is,
exactly.
yeah. That is, yeah.
Mm,
That's actually
amen.
very, very, very powerful. And before you leave, the producers want to give you a gift
Oh,
celebrating
okay.
you for where you are. So what we want to do is to play your favorite song after we play this podcast. So
Mm-hmm,
please do give
mm-hmm,
us a song that you would like to
mm-hmm.
play that's representative of you.
Oh God. Okay. I know YouTube actually sent me a message and said this is the most song I watched in 2024, which is Kayam Teta Konke Kuyenzeka.
Konke kuyenzeka khaya mthethwa. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. We'll definitely play that and we will actually keep in touch. Thank you very much, Sanele. I celebrate you, African Queen. And please continue to share the good. We need people like you to continue to do that in the platforms that you are in. I love you so much. And thank you very much, my dear, for coming in.
Oh, thank you. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
The home of inspiration every
Most
day.
people give up on themselves easily. You know the human spirit is powerful.
From news,
Countries across the globe have been hit by the COVID-19 virus.
views,
There's a global trend to see an increase in GBV incidences, specifically domestic violence.
sports,
What's he say? It's a really good ball. It's Shabalala.
and music to inspire you every day. This is Vuka Online, your inspiration radio station.